Yo, what up, everybody? How you doing? Welcome to Deconstructing Christianity. I am your host, Coach Renz. Welcome to the show. What up, Tim? Already here on time tonight. I'm not on time, but Tim's on time. We go live every Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. Tonight, of course, Wednesday is dedicated to what is wrong with the Bible, and so far we are in Joshua 17 and 18. If you have missed the other ones and you want to go back and you want to watch them, then go on my YouTube, look under my playlist, and you will see all the what's wrong with the Bible, starting from Genesis all the way up to the book of Joshua, and they are all separated by each book. Also, we start at about the 5-minute mark, so if you're new, skip on the 5 minutes, and we start somewhere around that time frame. It's always after. I'll give a little time for people to get on tonight. We are going to have Joshua 17 and 18. The reading of it is incredibly, annoyingly boring to a certain extent, but there's some information that we're going to talk about that will hopefully liven it up a little bit for you in the reading of it all, so that you're not completely bored out your mind. Hopefully y'all won't start having all your little side conversations and actually stay within the information. We probably get a little hate tonight from some of the people who don't like what we're doing. What up, Trifo? What's up, everybody? Got to get my cigar ready. So the show is usually go for about as long as my cigar lasts, which is about 2 hours. This one is a Brazilian wrapper that my wife rolled. But we are here. Had a good show last night, talked about the Sumerians, Abraham, and all that kind of good stuff. So I thought it was a pretty good show. Posted a couple of videos earlier today, 3 of them to be exact. Hopefully you guys go and check those videos out if you haven't already. There was some good videos that were posted earlier today, you know. So it was a great 90 degrees here today. It was hot as hell, but I loved every moment of it. It was hot, and I love the heat. Got some chocolate going, being out there in that heat. My wife got a little toasted brown. So having a great day. Anything you guys want to throw out before we get started at the 5-minute mark? You know, we're going to start talking about the main conversation, but any questions from last night, thoughts about any videos that I posted so far this week, or any videos, period. When you come on, let me know who's here. I see that there's more people here than talk to me. Oluwawole. Oyeleki. Ha! I think I got it right. The rules about slavery were made as a way to help a fellow brother out of poverty. The rules can be likened to getting a 6-year contract job at a company. Today, no, that is not. So let me explain that, Big O. Let me explain that, Big O, for you. Hold on, slow your roll now. God addresses slavery first because the Israelites had a wrong idea of what slavery was from the time frame they were serving in Egypt. All right, Big O. I can't stand my neighbors. Why? I'm gonna have to, let me close this door, the window. Yeah, no, he's going somewhere else. All right, so Big O. That is, first of all, what you're saying about your God, saying that they have the wrong idea about slavery, is an excuse. Because let me ask you this: do you, as an adult, need to go through a process in order to learn how to do something correctly or something that is moral? Do you need to be told, well, let me give you a little bit of understanding of slavery, so that as you grow in consciousness and morality over 2,000 years, okay, I gotta close this. I gotta move to the country. I need to move to the country. I don't like living next to neighbors. All right, so Big O, stop talking. Stop talking. Don't ask a question and then keep talking, right? Now, you're right. The slavery talks about slavery between Israelites, not the same as slavery with the Babylonian experience. Stop talking for a second. All right. So let me explain this, and maybe you have a better understanding of it. So one, if your God needs to, the idea that God needs to take them through this slow process because of what they experienced in Egypt is bullshit. Because if I got a new group of people and we're off into a new space, a new land, I don't need to gradually get them to change who they are. If I'm God, I tell them what the rules are, boom, that's it. Now, you are right when it talks about slavery as far as Israelite to Israelite. Usually it was a poverty situation, some type of debt slavery. But if you continued reading in Exodus and Leviticus, if you continue reading in Leviticus, where it talks about slavery, it specifically says, you may buy your slaves from the foreigners who live amongst you and from foreign nations. Those you may keep as property and pass them down as inheritances to your children, to your sons, actually, be specific, to your sons. So that of foreign nations, you can make them slaves in perpetuity, the same type of slavery that has happened all over the world. Now, as far as Israelite to Israelite, in most situations that was the case, but it also has a caveat later on in Leviticus, where it says that if somebody came into becoming a slave, then and if the master gives him a wife and they have children, at the 7th year, although the husband is not a slave anymore, the wife and the child are still the slaves of the master for the rest of their life. And if he desires to live with his wife and children, he loves them that much, then he is to go to the synagogue or to the tent, lean against a post and have an awl pressed through his ear, and then he becomes a slave for life. So Israelites did have Israelites for slaves for life. Now, also, this is only men to man. Women and children, Israelite or anyite, were made slaves for all their life, never to be set free, other than if somebody bought them or something like that and gave them freedom papers. So it kills me the most when, and I'm gonna guess, Big O, that you're a man that look like me, that you try to use this Bible to justify the slavery of your God and try to separate it from, so I shouldn't say just, but to separate it from the slavery that happened in Africa, that happened in the Americas, that happened throughout Europe, that happened anywhere under Christendom. That slavery was according to the Bible, and that's what the Bible taught. So I understand you want to believe in this Bible so dearly, and you want your God to be of a higher moral standard than what you are. And when it comes to the idea of slavery, we want to make these exceptions. And we want to be able to say, well, the European Christians didn't practice slavery as the Bible said. They were outside of the Bible. The Egyptians were outside of the Bible. The Muslims were outside of the Quran and outside of the Old Testament, to which they believe in the book of the Old Testament. You want to do that because you want to stay in your religion, and it makes you feel and it makes you feel good. And you have a problem though when something like slavery comes up, especially if you know your ancestors were enslaved by Christians. So you want to make a way out that you can keep the religion and separate it. But there is no separation. The fact of the matter is, the Europeans, the Arabs, they all conducted slavery exactly like the Bible says so. Exactly like the Bible says so. if you beat your slave and he is unable to rise within 2 or 3 days, then the master is not punished. But if he does, but if he isn't able, then the master is punished. This didn't mean that the slave still lived after those 2 3 days. He could die, but you could beat your slaves. So, can you explain who are the Semites? Semites are people who believe that they come from biblically and Torah wise, they believe these are people who believe they come from the line of Shem. But Semites are people of a common language, Semitic language. So this would be your Amorites, your Akkadians, your Canaanites, your Perizzites, all your ites, your Ammonites. Those are Semites. So the people in that Levantian area, that Israel, Lebanon, Jordan, Syria, Mesopotamian area, who all stem from the common language, the common root language, are Semitic people. All right, all right. We did a couple of questions before we get started, but it is the day. It is the day. It is Wednesday. It's Wednesday. So we got to stick to what we're talking about. We got to stick to what we're talking about. And while I'm reading through this, what I want to put up on the screen while I'm going through this is a map. All right. I want you to have this map in mind the entire time that I'm reading through 17 and 18, although I will stop at certain little points here and there. But I want you to have this map so that as I'm going through it, you'll be able to identify what areas of land is being described here. And I also look for you to, and I will explain a lot of it afterwards. For the most part, there's only a few parts that I'll explain while I'm reading it. And my laptop just went out on me. What the hell? What the hell, man? I don't know if y'all can see me or not. I know I need a new laptop. I've been telling myself that I need a new laptop. Where's my screen? I don't even know if I'm still live. Well, I'm still live, that's for sure. I know that. But my screen is out. What in the world? My screen went blank. Y'all can see me. I know I'm still alive because my phone is telling me that I am. My screen got a little bluish tint to it. I don't want to. I don't want to close this. This may kick out the live and have to start over. Let me see. Let me move that. Eek. Let's close the screen for a second. All right. I don't know what in the 3 levels of hell just happened here. At the stage. That was. Oh, the button was right there just flashing in my face and I didn't even notice it. Okay, all right. Uh, uh, no, the Sumerians are not Semitic people, which is interesting since Abraham is supposed to be Semitic. Tim, weren't you on here last night and we went over all of that? Mm-mm-mm. Oh, a little technical difficulties, but we're gonna continue on. I don't get a chance to see all the comments on my videos because they on multiple forums. But you're a preacher to my all right now, Pastor Nicholson. Pastor Nicholson. All right. We got everything back how we're supposed to be doing it. So let's get to this. I do need to get a new computer. Hmm. Sorry to hear that. Sorry to hear that. All right. Hold on for 1 second. I think my neighbors finished blowing leaves and stuff right next to my house. My neighbor owns a lawn company, so of course he'll be making all kind of noise. All right. So let's get to it. Let's get to the reading since we've had our delays. We are in Joshua 17. Now, Joshua 17 and 18, as of just like last week, is a continuation of giving out all the land that they are claiming that they gave to people. Now, mind you, historically, this is supposed to be happening around 1200 BCE. Biblical chronology, this is supposedly happening around 1400 BCE. I bring those two things up because later on we're going to look at how it is an impossibility that these things were happening. I'm going to explain why they are making this claim. But is that noise bothering y'all out there? Let me know if the noise gets too loud with my neighbor. Let me know. Usually we had a window open in the cigar room, but I'll explain at the end of this reading how all of this is a lie historically, and that absolutely no scholar outside of biblical scholarship, outside of, let me rephrase that, apologetics, looks at this as a historical document. Joshua is certainly not a historical document. As a matter of fact, the leading thought process is that Joshua was initially written in around, at the earliest, written around 700 BCE, and wasn't in its final edition until around 500 BCE. And I'll talk about a little bit about that a little bit later as well. So let's get through this. And of course, I'm going to mispronounce some of these names. This was the allotment of the tribe of Manasseh as Joseph's firstborn. That is for Machir, Manasseh's firstborn. Machir was the ancestor of the Gladiites, who had received Gilead and Bashan, because the Machirites were great soldiers. So this allotment was for the rest of the people of Manasseh, the clan of Abiezer, Helek, Asriel, Shechem, Hepher, and Shemati. These are the other male descendants of Manasseh, son of Joseph, by their clans. Now, Zephahad, son of Helper, son of Gilead, and son of Machir, and son of Manasseh, had no sons but only daughters, whose names were Mahala, Noah, Hogla, Machiah, and Tiza. I don't have my glasses, so that looked different. They went to Eleazar, the priest, and Joshua son of Nun, and the leaders of Israel, and said, "The Lord commanded Moses to give us an inheritance among our relatives." So Joshua gave them an inheritance along with the brothers of their fathers, according to the Lord's command. Now remember, when we were back, and I believe that this was either in Deuteronomy or Leviticus. I can't remember exactly where this was exactly, but there was an issue in the where these ladies were saying that we should receive an inheritance. And you would think that this would be an opportunity for this guy to say, okay, women should be treated equally. But they were not. Instead, the law by which these women are talking about right here is the fact that Moses said that, okay, we will give you women the inheritance since your father didn't have any sons. But there's a caveat. If you were to marry anyone outside of the Israelite tribes, then you will lose your inheritance. So basically, what they're saying is that women can only maintain property if they marry someone who is an Israelite. If you, like the men who can go off and marry a Hittite, a Canaanite, and all other ites, if the men go and do that, they still maintain the inheritance, still maintain the land. But if a woman goes and marries someone outside, they don't, because now the land transfers to the man and the man's sons, and those sons will not be considered Israelites in the same way. So when these women are coming and reminding him of this, Joshua knows that he has to do it, but these women know that their dating pool is only within the 12 tribes of Israelites, that they cannot marry someone else outside of that. So this is protection and control by them and by these groups of people, by the Israelites, continuing to diminish women in who they are and their value and their worth within this society. This is one of those reasons why I still don't understand why women support this religion. Why are you supporting a religion where it says that you should not be able to maintain the inheritance given to you by your father unless you marry someone of the same group? That would be like if a black man told his daughters that you will not gain any inheritance, no life insurance policies, no land, nothing, no stocks, no bonds, no businesses, no property in the house if you marry somebody outside of your race. If somebody said that today, we would look at them as a racist or nationalist or whatever, but we would not look favorably upon them. We would not see that as a moral gesture. But according to this Bible, that's moral, because if that father said that to his daughters, but then for his son, he said, you can marry anybody you want to marry. I don't care. It can be black, white, Asian. It doesn't matter. You still gonna get your inheritance. We would say that he's being sexist all day long. Yet women can't see that. And I've never heard a preacher preach it either. Never heard a preacher preach that. So let's continue. Manasseh's share consisted of 10 tracts of land beside Gilead. And remember, it's all right. It's all on that map. I can't see myself, so I don't know which way I'm supposed to be pointing. So the cigar's in this hand, so it should be. No, just that way. Anyway, where was I? Manasseh's 10 tracts of land beside Gilead and Bashan east of the Jordan. Because the daughters of the tribe of Manasseh received an inheritance among the sons, the land of Gilead belonged to the rest of the descendants of Manasseh. Because remember, some of the Manasseh gained an inheritance and maintained on the other side of the Jordan. So only half of the Manasseh is getting an inheritance. The territory of Manasseh extended from Asher to Mikmethah, east of Shechem. The boundary ran southward from there to include the people living in Tapua. Manasseh had the land of Tapua and Tapua itself on the boundary of Manasseh, belonging to the Ephraimites. Then the boundaries continued south to the Kana ravine. There were towns belonging to Ephraim lying along the towns of Manasseh, but the boundary of Manasseh was the north side of the ravine and ended at the Mediterranean Sea. on the south side of the land belonging to Ephraim, on the north to Manasseh. The territory of Manasseh reached the Mediterranean Sea and bordered Asher on the north and Issachar on the east. Let me scroll down. Within Issachar and Asher, Manasseh also had Beth-shan, Ibalim, and the people of Dor Endor. Hey, Endor, the little Ewoks. Anyway, Tanakh and Megiddo, together with their surrounding settlements, the third in the list of Naphtha. Yet the Messenites were not able to occupy the. Now listen carefully to this part. Yet the Messenites were not able to occupy these towns, for the Canaanites were determined to live in that region. However, the Israelites grew strong. They subjected the Canaanites to forced labor, but did not drive them out completely. So, what does forced labor mean? What does forced labor mean? So, my guy was just on here earlier talking about this guy didn't condone the type of slavery that is a debt slavery. But even in the reading of here, Big O, if you're still here. What did I just read, Big O? I just read that the Canaanite people who they did not drive out from their land were committed to forced labor. Forced labor is slavery, no matter how you slice it. This Bible, exactly like forced slavery is slavery. It will always condone slavery if you read the text and don't read with emotion. Every time. It is forced slavery. There's no way around it. The Bible God condones slavery. No way around it. That's just what it is. So let me continue. We're almost done with this chapter. The people of Joseph said to Joshua, "Why have you given us only one allotment and one portion of an inheritance? We are a numerous people, and the Lord has blessed us abundantly." So normal stuff, shit, they complaining. "If you are so numerous," Joshua answered, "and if the hill country of Ephraim is too small for you, go up into the forest and clear the land for yourselves, there in the land of the Perizzites and the Rephaites." The people of Joseph replied, "The hill country is not enough for us, and all the Canaanites who live in the plains have chariots fitted with iron, both those of Beth-shan and the settlements and those in the valley of Jezreel." But Joshua said to the tribes of Joseph, "To Ephraim and Manasseh, you are numerous and very powerful. You will have not only one allotment, but the forest hills country as well. Clear it, and its farthest limits will be yours. Though the Canaanites have chariots fitted with iron, and though they are strong, you can drive them out." So basically, they come in and they're taking people's land. I want to let you guys know that 15, 16, and 17 of Joshua and 18 of Joshua, these are what's read to the Zionists in Israel. And these are the reasons that they are going into the land and the houses of the people, the Palestinians, and are saying that this is our land. We have the right to drive you out, because they are claiming that this was given by Joshua. And so this is how they do it. This is what they're using. So imagine you're using a book that was written that is not historical at all, that it's easy to prove that is not historical, which I will do at the end of reading 18, which is not as long. But they know this, but yet they don't give two shits, and they are stealing people's land, kicking them out of their houses for that reason. This is all the bullshit. This is the creation of all the bullshit that we are seeing right now that's going on. in Israel is because of this. This is why belief is incredibly dangerous. So you see there's a map. There's a map up there that's showing you where these people are supposedly claiming this territory, right? All right, so trifold. The reason why the Manassas is divided is because when you go back into Deuteronomy, I believe it's Deuteronomy, yeah, Deuteronomy, before they crossed over to the Jordan River, there were half of the tribe of Manassas and the tribe of Ephraim. They were like, we don't need to go into the promised land. We don't need to cross the river Jordan. So the division between Manassas and Gad, that line is representative of the river Jordan. So half of Manassas stayed on the other side of Jordan. The other half went on, fought with Joshua, and they then gained all that. And that's why they're getting another a different inheritance. So that's why you're seeing two different ones. The Levites didn't get any inheritance because the Levites are going to be the priest that dwells in each and all of the lands. They are supposed to run all the temples and all that. So they are the priest clan. And so that's why the Levites, but because the Levites' inheritance is that they get to handle the tent of meetings, they get to be the priest, they get paid every time there's a baby born, and all the tithes and offerings and all the other offerings. And so that's why you don't have Levites listed on the map. Now, let's continue and get through 18 and read 18 rather. I know for some of us, just to read this book again is a get through. So let's do 18. So now they're going in there driving out these people. These people are already living there. These are clans of people that supposedly already are living in there. These are all supposed to be other Canaanite people who are living in these lands that they are claiming. They're just coming in and taking. And in their taking of things, they genocide everybody. They do it. They claim they genocided Jericho. They claim they genocided AI. But we know that from previous studies of this, that there was nobody living in Jericho at the time frame that Joshua supposedly went to Jericho. There was nobody inhabiting AI at the time frame that they supposedly went there. All right, the whole assembly of the Israelites gathered at Shiloh and set up the tent of meetings there. The country was brought under their control, but there were still 7 Israelite tribes who had not yet received their inheritance. So Joshua said to the Israelites, "How long will you wait before you begin to take possession of the land that the Lord, the God of your ancestors, has given you? Appoint 3 men from each tribe. I will send them out to make a survey of the land and to write a description of it. According to the inheritance of each, they will return to me. If you are to divide the land into 7 parts, Judah is to remain in the territory on the south, and the tribe of Joseph to the territories on the north. After you have written the description of the 7 parts of the land, bring them here to me, and I will cast lots for you in the presence of the Lord our God." It's interesting. See, for them, they're gonna cast some lots to see what they're gonna get. But if you remember, Caleb, who was part of the tribe of Judah, was like, "Hey, I was down with you in the very beginning, and I went over to the promised land, and me and you was like, we could take them, but then people didn't want to take them, so we had to walk around for 40 years. So I deserve a big healthy chunk." And basically, that's why Judah and Simeon got this big ass chunk down on the south side, while everybody else is splitting up this other little pieces because he played that favoritism card. But let's continue. If I can figure out where the hell I just left off. The Levites, and this will answer your question again, trifold, I believe. The Levites, however, do not get a portion among you, because the priestly service of the Lord is their inheritance. And Gad, Reuben, and half the tribe of Manasseh have already received their inheritance on the east side of the Jordan, Moses, the servant of the Lord, gave to them. So that's why, and I left out Reuben, but yes, Gad, Manasseh, and Reuben got theirs because they didn't want. They were like, "We good on this side. We don't need to go into Jericho. We good. We good, dog." So verse 8: As the men started on their way to map out the land, Joshua instructed them, "Go and make a survey of the land and write the description of it." Already said that. Got to fill more space. Then return to me, and I will cast lots for you here in Shiloh, in the presence of the Lord. So the men left and went through the land. They wrote the description on a scroll, town by town, and set in 7 parts, and returned to Joshua in the camp at Shiloh. Joshua then cast lots for them in Shiloh in the presence of the Lord, and there distributed the land to the Israelites according to their tribal divisions. The first lot, the first lot came up as the tribe of Benjamin according to his clan. Their allotted territory lay between the tribes of Judah and Joseph. Sorry, Judah and Joseph. This part is going to be a little bit boring, so just hold on for a minute. Thomas De La Rosa, are you a Mason? Just asking. Are you a Mason? All right. On the north side of their boundary began the Jordan, past the northern slope of Jericho, and headed west into the hill country, coming out at the wilderness of Beth Aven. From there, it crossed to the south slope of Luz, that is Bethel, and went down to Atharoth Adar, and on the hillside of lower Beth Horon. From the hill facing Beth Horon to the south, to the south, the border turned south along the western side and came out at Kithra Baal, at Kithrath Jearim, a town of the people of Judah. This was the western side. I doubt if you're exposing anything Masonic because a lot of your claims are false. And unless you've been deep inside of Masonry, you don't know what you're talking about. The southern side began at the outskirts of Kirath Jearim on the west, and the boundary came out at the spring of the waters of Nephtor. The boundary went down to the foot of the hill facing the valley of Ben Hinnom, valley north of the valley of Rephaim. It continued down to the Hinnom Valley along the southern slopes of the Jebusite city and so to the En Rogel. It then curved north and went to En Shemesh, continued to Galeoth, which faces the pass of Adamimim, and ran down to the stone of Bohan, south of Reuben. It continued to the north slopes of Beth Araba and down into Araba. I said Araba, but it's Araba. And then sent to the north slope of Beth Hogal, and came out in the northern bay of the Dead Sea at the mouth of the Jordan in the south. This is the southern boundary. What is your proof of any of the Masonic things that you're saying is true? When you're done, Coach, can you give a view on this area today? I have to give me time. I'm almost done. Then Jordan formed the boundary to the east side. These are the boundaries that marked out the inheritance of the clans of Benjamin on all sides. The tribe of Benjamin, according to his clans, had its following towns. This is short, so don't worry about it. Jericho, Beth Hogala, Emek Kizi, Beth Arba, Zamirium, Bethel, Aviam, Parah, Okra, Kephar Armani, Ophini, and Jeb, 12 towns and their villages. Gibbon, Ramah, Beth, Beroth, Mizpah. It's a whole bunch of cities, but basically it's come down to 14 more cities in their villages because I'm just messing up those names. And one of them is a Jebusite village. This was the inheritance of Benjamin for its clans, and that's the end of 18. Now, the thing about it, and Thomas, I asked you that because what we don't do on this channel is just make claims without some kind of like, where are you getting that information from? That's why I'm asking. That's why I'm asking. There are many people who talk about masonry but don't have any. All their information is based on people who just hate masonry. That is like accepting what Marcionism is about, but the only people who wrote about Marcionism were the people who were against it. So would you believe that they were doing all the negative things that they claim? The things that the Knights Templar were claimed to have been doing was only came about because the French king and wrote a whole bunch of propaganda about them. So are we just accepting propaganda? Because in all honesty, there were no Masons involved in the canonization of the Bible. Athanasius of Alexandria was not a Mason. And he was the one who kept writing for 29 years what the canonized book of the Bible should be. And he wasn't a Mason. You see what I'm saying? That's why when people say, oh, the Masons, they're just thinking about modern day stuff. But you're talking about a book that was canonized in the late fourth century. Let's see. Now, let me see some of y'all coaches. Now, are you talking about my evil eye? My hand of Hansel? Because it looked good? Because it looked good. That's the only reason. Okay, Thomas. I see that you're one of those people. You're more prone to all the conspiracy theory stuff. Have at it, my guy. So anyway, we're gonna continue on. So according to this book, Joshua 18, 17 and 18. Well, if we go back to 15, 16, 17, 18, and the end of Deuteronomy with the tribe of Manasseh, the tribe of Manasseh, the Reubens, and Gad, they had already taken their inheritance and say like, okay, we're good. We don't need this other piece of the inheritance. So that's where they got their land. Now, this is all claimed to be, everything you see on this map over here is claimed to be what they went and when they went and they conquered these lands. And as I said in the beginning of this is supposedly happening. If you go with the apologists, this is happening around 1400 BCE. If you go with biblical chronology, this is happening around 13 to 1200 BCE. All right. Now, here's the big problem with that. In 1400 BCE, all of that land was not controlled. You see where the land was not controlled. Let me shrink myself on this one. Let me see. Where can I shrink myself? How can I make myself smaller so that the map is bigger? That's not it. All right. So as you see, Egypt controlled pretty much all that land. The Mitanni control some of the other lands that they are claiming that these Canaanite people were existing in. And at no time was this Israelite in the 14th century, if you go by what the apologists tried to say, this land was controlled by Egypt during this whole time frame. As a matter of fact, Egypt controlled this land for a lot longer. When we go into the 12th century, around the 12th century, we see that this land was still controlled by Egypt. The reason why the yellow little striations is that they were all vassal states of Egypt. So at no point in time in history, no matter where you put Joshua, all the way down to 1300 BCE. From 1500 to 1300 BCE, all this land was controlled by Egypt. Right? So how could Joshua have issued out these things to go do? I'll put my email in the comment section. So there's absolutely no way that they could do that. That is possible historically. So from the conversation, are these what's left out of the Samaritans, not Samaritans? Samaritans are different than Sumerians, but you gotta these cultures develop. So last night we was talking about how the Sumerians and Akkadians, and then when people start leaving, the time frame that these people are leaving is about 500 years, 500 to 700 years prior to all of this stuff supposedly happening. So yes, these are the different cultures that develop over that 5 to 7, 800 years. So this is an impossibility for Joshua to have conquered, because if he was conquering, he would have been conquering during the time frame when Egypt controlled all this land. Right? So Joshua pretty much doesn't exist. Now, how were they able to get away with writing this in their story? Not how are they getting away with it. Why would they write this into their story? Well, like I said in the very beginning, this story was not actually written down. At the earliest, it was written down in and around 700, 800 BCE. It wasn't finished in its complete edits until around 500 BCE. Now, the oldest version of the book of Joshua that we have ever found is in the Dead Sea Scrolls, only pieces of it, and actually it's not a complete version. Pieces of it is part of the Dead Sea Scrolls, which date back, I believe, to around 300 CE. And then the most completed version dates to, well, then there's another version of it is not completed that dates to 500 CE. And the most completed version dates to around 1300 CE. So we don't have anything written that goes into the 500 BCE, 600, 800 BCE. It is all based on archaeological linguistics that they are able to put it at the earliest parts of Joshua was written around 700 BCE. And then other parts and edits, because of the linguistic archaeology, is around 500 BCE. Now, the reason, so with understanding that this story at its earliest is being told around 800 to 700 BCE, what they are counting on is the fact that, as we have discussed on many occasions, the Bronze Age collapse occurred. And when the Bronze Age collapse began to occur around 1200, this is when Egypt started losing the Levant and losing their kingdoms. And this is when the Hittites and the Assyrians started asserting themselves throughout the Levant. Because of, and the Sea people battled against them as well. And understand, the Sea people were a mixture of people. We like to just give it all over to the Phoenicians, but they were a mixture of people. And so, like, they would go up and help the Hittites and bring troops down to fight against Egypt. They would graft other people into their groups. But all these towns started losing and becoming independent, and there's a hodgepodge of who's running what from 1200 down to about 800 BCE, that you have so many different tribes of people going in and out, conquering this city state, that city state. We rule, they rule, we rule, they rule. So you don't start solidifying any of these things. You got about 400 years where this whole region is a mess. The whole region is a complete mess during this time frame. So once kingdoms started calming down around 800 BCE, so in that 800 BCE era, now people are making claims that, oh, we've always had this land. We see the same thing happening in Israel right now. People, oh, our ancestors have always had this land. So this one and that one and the third one. And that's how you got all of this mess going on. That's why they're able to claim this, and they were making these statements. And if you make this statement year after year after year for hundreds of years, when you get to the point where you're actually going to write your story's being written down, then you say your people believe it, because there's no one to challenge you. But as they would say, thanks be to Ra, or as I would say, thank you to the flying spaghetti monster on Saturn. We have archaeology. And archaeology tells us that there is absolutely no way that the story of Joshua ever happened, that this claim is utter nonsense and bullshit. And so it's one of those things that lets us know that we have deconstructed from this book for good reason. Not because some evil cabal, not because some pastor hurt me or anything, but we deconstruct from it because it's just a flat out lie. It doesn't measure up to history, not even slightly. This book has this, if this story of Joshua, just this story of Joshua alone, is not historical, why would you accept any of it as being historical? Why would any of it be historical? Sure, they named some cities that are historical. After 800 BCE, there's some people who are named who most likely existed, but all the miracle shit, that doesn't account for it. It doesn't account for that. Raw ISIS, I will say, let me put it like this, a better way to say that, because if you get into a debate against someone, they can always point to the fact that Hezekiah, who was ruling in around 800 BCE, he is not only mentioned in this Bible, but he is mentioned by Sennacherib, who we have proof that Sennacherib ruled Nineveh, and he was an Assyrian king. And in his writings, in the writings on the walls of Nineveh, Sennacherib talks about how Hezekiah bribed him so that he would stop fighting. He would give up the siege on Jerusalem after he had already conquered the northern Israelites. And then he went on and conquered the rest of it. But, you know, I don't want you to get caught into a trap like that. Darius, Xerxes, Nebuchadnezzar, we found artifacts of them. So, but always maintain though, that an angel of this God killed 180,000 Assyrians? No. Hezekiah bribed Sennacherib. He paid the fee. I mean, I guess you can say it's based off the Gregorian calendar, including the leap years, because that's how we commonly measure time. So yes. So I had one like, and I pissed it. All right. But anyway, yes, this is what they are. Nothing but lion ass lie. You know what? I should have worn my lion ass liar shirt today for this one, because this is nothing more than some lion ass lying. Because they certainly lied to create a history for themselves that, if you think about at the time frame, who's going to challenge the king? Who's going to challenge the leader? They didn't live in a society like we do today, where we can talk shit about the president, talk shit about the congressman, the senator, the Supreme Court justice, the military leader. We can talk shit about them, and it's unlikely they're just going to show up at our house and kill us, right? But in their time frame, if the king signed off on the scribe saying that Joshua did all this, and you try to go against it, they just show up at your door and kill you. So people weren't going to challenge it. And plus, they're definitely not going to challenge it if it's in their favor. If it falls in their favor, they're not going to challenge this stuff. Not even a little bit. So, any questions about what we talked about so far? Any questions or thoughts? We can get down with some thoughts. Doesn't have to just be questions. Let's see. Let me see if I missed anything. That I wanted to talk about. I don't entertain in conspiracy theories. I need some, you got to have some facts. Let me throw this up here real quick. Because the reason why, wait a minute, I didn't even bring that back down. I put this up here. I don't know if you're still here, but you said, did the tribe of Simeon relocate their lot when the kingdom divided? Understand that when they later divided the kingdom, when it was the northern kingdom of Israel, southern kingdom of Israel, and I'm assuming you're talking about at the time frame right before the Babylonian captivity, the two tribes were still known in Judah. They were just all of them, Judah and Simeon, fell under the kingdom of Judah, but the tribe of Simeon was still there and valid according to their beliefs. Well, and according to history, actually, when they talk about the 10 other tribes, they were just absorbed into the kingdom of Judah, or it was absorbed into the Assyrians first, then absorbed into the Babylonians, and then they were absorbed when they were released into this kingdom of Judah. And we click it right down. There was something else. Yeah, fear has constantly controlled the masses. Tim, I've been talking for a whole hour. You know today is Wednesday, so it's What's Wrong with the Bible. We did chapter 17 and 18, and we demonstrated how this Bible condones slavery, the mistreatment of women, or the what is it called? Sexism towards women, genocide of other people and taking their land. And this is why they claim that they can just take this land from the Palestinian people. The hard part about the Palestinian people is, just like any other country, or any other group of people, in the past, they have been known for so many different things, depending upon who conquered them and when. If you were to be able to track their DNA, you'll find that people in this region families have been there forever, for as long as they can go back. They probably got Babylonian DNA, Sumerian DNA, Akkadian DNA, Assyrian DNA. They are a mixture of a whole bunch of different people, because we're talking about thousands of years of this land changing hands. They probably got some Greek DNA, some Roman DNA, some Kemetic DNA, since Egypt controlled them. So these people will have a whole lot. It just depends on who you're choosing, and most of them are choosing based on what religion that they currently believe in. I read Sheep at the Dock 30 years ago. I can't remember the name of the book, but that was about 30 years ago. I do remember being a good book. Do I believe in prophecy? No. People just make really good guesses sometimes. Because they are born into it and indoctrinated into it, and they get lied to as to what it means now, what it really means. And people constantly change the meaning of this stuff. How old would Adam be if he was born into an adult? Well, since they have their mitzvah at what, 12, 13? 12, 13. He could have been 12, 13 years old. I don't know. I have no idea. You're stupid. Tim, I can't take you nowhere. No, this will last me an hour, because I smoke a lot slower when I'm talking to y'all. How can anyone lay claim to this land if it's been conquered and reconquered several times throughout history? Exactly. Exactly. This is the same mentality I have towards when people say, I have an uncle loving the life, and I got some cousins loving the life, but they all run around claiming more. We're more. Moorish this, Moorish that. I'm like, do you really think black people started with the Moors? People like to pick a time frame, and that's when they start. And I think that is one of the most ridiculous things to do. And that land has changed affiliations so many times. I remember there was a time frame where people was like, oh, they built the Suez Canal in order to not call the Middle East Northeast Africa. And then when I go and I look at history, the people of Mesopotamia never considered that they didn't divide it up in continents like we do. To them, there was no continental divides. These were later things that was created, and different cultures would call it different stuff. Like the Romans called it Asia Minor, or was it the Greeks? One of them called it Asia Minor. Sometimes Turkey is part of the Middle East, and sometimes it wasn't. So it's people just decide to call it whatever cultural time frame you want to be in. I just call it Earth. But when you're teaching something, you do have to divide it up based on, so that people can understand it. So that is the only reason why I may call a land a certain land. But understand that all lands keep changing hands. So the Jews that control the government in Israel and were victims of the Holocaust, what is their relation to the Middle East? Genetically, none. These are people who adopted the religion. They have little to no genetic, but what they will claim is that they are from one of the 12 tribes, or they'll claim they're from one of Abraham's son, because not Abraham, Noah's sons. And so they will lay their claim that way. But in truth, there is no actual claim that any of them can make. Like, to me, you couldn't make a historical claim to that land unless you can show that your family has been there for centuries upon thousands of years. Now, since we're in 2000, thousands of years. But even at that, that's just saying that your family has always been there. Um, but the land, all lands get conquered. All lands get conquered at some time frame. Every land is going to get conquered. Not necessarily. If there's a yes and no. If you're a Moor, you still be an African just like an African American. Yes and no. The sub-Saharan Africans who became Moors, most of them came through slavery and then became part of their society or military. Uh, but the original Moorish people were the Arabs. And yes, some of the Arabs came from East Africa, Ethiopia, Somalia area. So yes, that. But like my ancestors and my uncle, and I sent him the paperwork to show his ass, his daddy and his daddy's daddy and daddy's daddy and daddy's daddy and daddy's daddy came from West Africa. Did not come from damn North Africa. Ain't got shit to do with no Moors. A Kibulan for people in Northeast Africa. Southern Africans didn't call it that. Or is it reverse? Southern Africans call it that, but other Africans think. It depends on which part of Africa you're talking about. See, there's never been this whole unified Africa where everybody spoke the same language, everybody was together in one nation. They've all got different histories. They all got different history. Oh shit, that's not what I wanted. Trifold. The Igigi was a subset of the Anunnaki. These are Sumerian, kind of like you got the primary gods, then you got the next level gods, then you got this next level, and that's the Igigi. It's like there are different levels, kind of like in the biblical people say there's archangels, and then there are messenger angels, then there's cherubims and seraphims. Igigi were parts of the Anunnaki. Now I know there's an African tribe with a similar name. Wait a minute. We have in the manner of speaking, they were the hominids that they encountered on the landing. No, they had according to the Sumerian story, the Igigi were the ones that was working on the mines and who were the original ones that was working in the mines on Earth and on Mars. And they were the ones who invaded Marduk's wedding, according to the Babylonians, and they would have been considered the fallen angels because they invaded Marduk's wedding, took about 200 wives, and that's the Babylonian, the 500 BCE Babylonian story of that. The previous Babylonian story, the Igigi were just like they were treated like slaves. They were second-class citizens. You know, I've been meaning to read the Earth Chronicles. I got them downstairs, but I just haven't read them. Hey, there are a lot of subjects that I am rusty on as well. So that's what part of this is, to sharpen each other. Simeon wasn't part of the northern kingdom. Simeon was part of the southern Judah. According to their belief, let me see if I can get that back up. You see where Simeon is down there in the middle of Judah? So I don't know if I said that. If I said they was part of the northern, that's not what I meant. That was a mistake. They've always been. No, I didn't say that. They were part of the southern. But when it was called the kingdom, it was the kingdom of Judah, and it just had both tribes in it. Kind of like if you was here last night, disciple of Christ, we talked about how the Akkadians and the Sumerians dwell with each other. So even when it was the Sumerian Empire, Akkadians were part of it, and then when it became the Akkadian Empire, Sumerians were still part of that. When it became the Guti dynasty, they were still part of it, and then when it went back to the Sumerian kingdom, Akkadians and Sumerians were still part of it. So that's still just, they were the same. What are your thoughts on the experience where a presence is felt, heard, seen, known as a third man syndrome? That, in my opinion, you are either feeling the emotions and energy of yourself or another person um, that you are close to or you can connect with. Um, but most of the time, it's an internal effect that you're having on yourself. But very few people can, I mean, not very few, everybody can feel the energy of other people. Everything in the universe is energy, everything vibrates, everything is alive. Can you, are you empathically connected to certain people more so than others? Sure. Can you feel the energy of your brother, your feeling, the emotions of your family? You have, yes. But feeling a presence, um, most of the time is you projecting. Um, Make sure, make the, no, no. Actually, the first settlers who came to America, no, you're right. They still came. I'm just thinking you. I was thinking you. So you have the last ice age, yes, but then the ice age before that, they came as well. But in between the two ice ages, you had people come on boats from the from Asia who came over to the Americas as well. But yes, you're right. You're right about that. I had to think about it. Going back. Had to go back on that one. I was thinking one ice age. I was thinking you was talking about one ice age, but even if you look at the previous ice age, they still came the same way. Um, and the Chinese called them the Zai people who had came across. And then during another ice, during after, so then when that expedition came, that was looking for the Zai people, that which was 25,000, which was during that ice age. So they came as well. You had many crossings across that. Why is that a lot of people glance over the Aboriginal and the Tory Island people from the land down under, always come across the forgotten people and their lineage? Really, because after they kind of hit that area, until they became some of the South Pacific Islanders, then the South Pacific Islanders went out and they spread out. But a lot of the Aboriginal people, once they got to Australia, they were like, we good. And many scientists are looking at many archaeologists believe that they came across land bridges that Southwest Asia and from India and from boats from India, and the Indian people came from boats from Africa and or land bridges, because then we can get into Lemuria. But a lot of people don't really pay attention to them because it just doesn't make as big of a splash, I guess. Say how many more does it take to build 1,000? This is going to be stupid. I'm sure the answer is going to be stupid. Is Tim. Yeah. Now, those people who had crossed those land bridges would be the ones that we call the Native Americans. Yeah. A lot of people like, some people like to think that they were already here because of Pangea, but there is no proof of any hominids being on the planet during the time frame of Pangea. Well, let me not say on the planet, but there's no proof of any hominids being in the Americas during Pangea. If there's a Middle East, then there has to be a North and South. You would think so. You would think if there would be. I believe that the reason why it's called the Middle East because it is the gateway. That area has always been considered the gateway to the East, the gateway to the Silk Road. The gateway to India and Asia is probably why it was called the Middle East, and all that other area was called the East, and the other was the West. I mean, they couldn't just call it the Middle. Mm. So you find more pyramids in Sudan than you find in Egypt. But it is my contention, based on the weathering patterns and based on the Egyptian stories, that the lack of how the pyramids were built and the difference between the older pyramids to the newer pyramids. The newer pyramids are not built nowhere near as well as the older pyramids. So it is my thought that the people that we give credit for building the pyramids didn't build shit. They migrated to that land from Kush, from Sudan, saw these structures, and then just laid claim to them. Then tried to duplicate them, but didn't do as well of a job because they didn't have the technology or the know-how to do it as well. They had the ability to do it. So I think that it was a previous civilization that built the pyramids and the Sphinx that used the like the Great Pyramids of Giza. Somebody else built those. And where those people came from, we don't know. Now, yes, I do agree. Zechariah Ascension opened the door to history, and he's not 100%, and which is why I don't try to shit on him too tough because he opened the door. And of course, as even the people who are making claims now, as we get better and better in understanding cuneiform, and as we find more information out, even some of the things that people are claiming today may change. The Middle East does include the Levant as well. So the Levant is just that, yes, that coastal area of Jordan, Syria, Israel, Lebanon. That's the Levant, but the it's part of the Middle East. Appreciate you always being here around ISIS. If reality is a simulation, then there must be a creator. If, but is it? Is it a simulation? That's the part you'd have to be able to prove that it's a simulation. I don't know much about it. I don't know which version of Satanism that is. Is that the Satanism that says that do whatever you want to do, just don't hurt nobody else? Or is that that version of Satanism that hurt people? Hmm. Now, this part I didn't know that the back end shows more erosion than the front end. I'm gonna have to research that. I'm gonna have to research that. Either way, though, wouldn't it still not have been built during the time frame when the Sahara Desert was a rainforest, when it had lakes and rivers? So that would put it at least 13,000 to as far back as like 25, 30,000 BCE, which makes it older than the known Kemetic society. And the Egyptians were so good at recording everything, especially with everything they built. You think that they would demonstrate the construction of those things, but they don't. So that's what I meant when I said that there's a lack of information as well. You're gonna record everything else, but your greatest achievements, these huge monolithic things that you've created, these big monuments, you don't record that. Well, I appreciate that. I appreciate that. I know that name. I know Anton LaVey. Why do I know that name? I know that name. I know that name. I don't know why I know that name, but I do know that name. Anton LaVey. Why do I know that name? Oh, he died in 97. I knew. Okay, that's why I knew his name. He wrote the Satanic Bible. I can't remember much about him. So is that the version that say go and live your life and do your own thing? Just don't hurt nobody? Or is that the other one? Mm-hmm. On top of those smoking. Let's see. Check out Joanna James. Johanna, okay. Does great videos on Egypt. All right. Mhm. Okay. Do you know that the Bible has been Mandela affected and they are being supernaturally rewritten? There are verses in that 20 years ago that we heavily quote and are gone for good. I don't think it's been supernaturally rewritten. I think that we people have just been told certain things. Now, it's been rewritten just by people alone. Like back when I was a kid, my Bible said, in the beginning, God created man and woman and told them to replenish the earth. But then I saw when it changed to fill the earth. So they just changed it. Um, Oftentimes people will hear something and they think that's what it is. Be a popular song. Like what was the what was it? Kurt Franklin talking about God will never put it on you more than you can handle. And people went with that, roll with that, but that's not actually what it says because they're taking this little quote that somebody has said, but when you go read it, it says something totally different. That would be Mandela effect. So I don't think that's been supernaturally written. I do think there are plenty of Mandela effects, but that's because people are taught something by a pastor and they just run with it. Like do unto others as you would have them do unto you is not in the Bible, but people will claim that it is. Right. There's some of the old text talk about the Sphinx being repaired but not built. I believe it is on a stela. Right. And that's my problem. Like, they're not talking about it being built. There is the theory that the original head of the Sphinx was Anubis head. But there is the debate. Some say it used to be a lion's head, but it has a lot, but instead of the human head. Do as thou wilt is Aleister Crowley. Right. I know Aleister Crowley coined that phrase, but isn't that a teaching from the Satanic Church? Right. But I'm with Isaac. From what I remember off the top of my head right now, it was originally a jackal's head, a tribute to Anubis. You got to remember, Anubis was the lord of the underworld before Osiris became the lord of the underworld. You know, they switched, then they switched it up where Osiris became lord of the underworld and Anubis became the guide in the underworld. Yeah, Rick and Sheila, you got about 30 minutes. You got about 30 minutes. Are you kidding me? That's irritating. Sorry, I just got told something. Ah, I'm listening. I'm looking. I just gotta make a change. What got? I could be wrong, but I agree with you. Change for sure. Sean, I'm pretty sure it wasn't. Yep, Jackal doing anything such as a paradigm being. Okay. All right. Sorry about that. Had to fix something real quick. Fix it. Send a message. Um, I don't think the Mandela effect is proof of a simulation. I think the Mandela effect is proof that people have a tendency to remember things in a way that is not true, but just an easier way for them to remember it. Like, you can listen to Star Wars, you can find all the originals, and the man said, "No, Luke, man said, Luke, I am your father." Right? Well, he said, "No, Luke, I am your father." Um, Not Luke, I am your father. Like, people remember things, just there's a popular way that people start remembering things, and then as it's said over and over again, people will change the memory of the original memory that they had, and then that will supersede it. I don't think it's not a proof of a simulation. Like, what is the Bernstein Bears or is the Bernstein Bears? Did the Monopoly Man wear a monocle or did he not wear a monocle? Like, it's just memory, bad. It's just how we remember things. I think it's more of an indication of how the mind works and how if you tell people certain things long enough and emphasize it, and enough people start following along, you'll start to go against what you know and then make that what you know. I will summarize 17 and 18 of Joshua at the end. So you got to wait. You got to hold on. Unless somebody start asking questions about it, you got to hold on. Like, is it did the Monopoly man wear a monocle or not? I'm asking. Did the Monopoly man wear a monocle? Don't look it up. Don't cheat. Don't cheat. Come on, rapid fire. Give me some answers. Give me some answers. Did the Monopoly man wear a monocle? Yes or no? Sean said yes, he did. Come on. Paradise said he remember him with a monocle. King Wolf said no. Did you know? Said no. But Sean said yes, he did emphatically with a LOL. Paradise said he remembered. No monocle. Mandela effect. Mr. Peanut. And this is the most likely reason people believe that he wore one. Because they look very similar. Got the cane, got the top hat. Mr. Peanut wore a monocle. Yeah, that Mandela effect get it. This is why eyewitness accounts, got to bring this back to the little Bible. Eyewitness account don't count for shit because people's memories are not good. And we have a tendency to fall in line with the popular thought. Has to be. What'd you say? Ain't got a clue. Oh, sure. Any question, any statement. Yep. I remember that. Jiffy over Jiff. I think it's a fascinating thing because it shows how the mind works. But what you got there, is that supposed to be Shabazz? I don't want to mess it up. Yeah. And what's funny is that we're constantly getting new Mandela effects all the time. There was people thinking that because y'all know I'm a Marvel guy, but because Kevin had said that, and I'm waiting for Shabazz to ask the question, or y'all change the subject to something different. But because Kevin Feige said the word that was supposed to be the name of the third Avengers movie was never mentioned in any Avengers movie, people think that that's true. But actually, in Infinity War, Doctor Strange said we're now in the end game, and that was the title for the last one, end game. But people will swear up and down that because Kevin Feige said that it wasn't in there, but he said it. Yep. Israelites belong to Canaanite people. Yeah, all the Israelites were Canaanites. And if he was with us last night, chematology, we went through how they originally came out of the Sumerian Arcadians, and most likely Sumerians. Yeah, and even from the Bible itself, you can glean the fact that Melchizedek was a Canaanite. He was supposed to be the king of Salem, which is often referred to as Jerusalem, which was a Canaanite city at that time frame. Look, okay. Did Mandela die in jail or become president? I remember Mandela dying as a martyr for freedom in prison. No shit. No, Mandela got out of prison. Um, Dark Light, he got out of prison and he became president. Him and Winnie got a divorce and he lived and then he died after after he had served as president for a while. He died later on. He did not die in prison. He died at home, as a free man, former president. But that's where the idea of the Mandela effect comes from. Have you ever been able to find out what racism is in your endeavors? That is a very good question. So, man is an interesting psychological animal. No matter how we slice it, man has always figured out a way to separate himself and claim one to be greater than the other. Before there was racism, there was nationalism. Before nationalism, there was tribalism. Man has seemed to want to figure out a way to separate himself. The full idea of racism really doesn't come into effect until around the 1400s CE. That is when supremacy based on race really started, and it was initiated by Pope Nicholas the Fourth in his pursuit to get Portugal and Spain to help him fight in a crusade. And that's what really got racism of separating each other based on race came from. Because before that, as I was speaking about Moors earlier, Moors were Arabs. They were light skinned, bright skinned. They were dark skinned, all skin tones. Uh, in the Levant during the time frame of the first century, you had people of different colors, but the main thing was: were you Greek? Were you Roman? Were you Judean? Were you Ethiopian? It was all about your tribe. So racism is something that was created, but it stems from the same thing of people wanting to dominate another people. So how can we separate ourselves to justify our domination? Hmm. So you gotta understand, Yahweh was a very popular Canaanite god. especially during the time frame of the Shashu people. Very popular Canaanite god. Many people worship Yahweh in different forms, kind of like how you got all the different Christianities running around right now, right? So you got 11 different Jesuses, if you really think about it. The Shashu people are a group of people who were nomadic and made their way from the Saudi Arabian Peninsula up into the Levant area and possibly merged with other Canaanite who worship Yahweh and turned out to be Israelites. So it is very possible that the Shashu became a part of that group that formed into Israelites somewhere in and around 1100, 1000 BCE. Yeah. And to be a Moor is basically, it was more about being Muslim than it was about a color or anything like that. Eric, this is the best, one of the best answers for the Mandela effect. A bunch of people trying to make a factual claim without proper research. But it's just our memory. It's just the way we memorize things and the way society moves forward with it. Now, the Shashu, the Hyksos, probably the fathers of the Hebrew nation. Give some Shashu, not so much on the Hyksos. Uh, just that general Canaanite people that were living in the coastal Levant, and then they went hillside, and those hillside people separated themselves. The Shashu people came up into the hillside. The Hyksos people really remained coastal and was more focused on Egypt. So I really don't put the Hyksos in there. I think a lot of people want the Hyksos to be in there. A lot of apologists like to put them in there because they were able to conquer certain portions of Egypt. Just for that, Tim, I'm gonna wear my Lion Ass Liar shirt because that's about how much I believe that. He wrote that the Hyksos were their ancestors. I remember reading. I've read all of Josephus' work, which doesn't mean that I remember everything about it. I don't recall him saying that. Although I would think that that was stuck out. But now, just because Josephus wrote it, don't make Josephus right. And you got to remember, Josephus is writing in late first century, trying to write about something that was occurring, that occurred with very little actual factual archaeological evidence that would have happened, 1,000 to 1,100 years prior. Um, the thing about Zedek is that Zedek is I believe it's is a Babylonian term for righteousness, righteous king, or righteous person, or someone who serves righteously. I think he's more Babylonian than anything else. I hurt your feelings because I know that you lying. I know that. curious. Why do you say is Moses the first who kicked them out? There's actually zero proof that the Israelites were ever in. The Hebrews were slaves in Egypt, and then that they left. There's zero proof of that. And if you was with us when we first started this, I brought up some maps. Well, I'll bring it up again. This will give. I forgot who had said it. So this is the map that they claimed that they was in control of during the time frame of the either 1400s or the 1200s BCE. But all that land was controlled by Egypt in the 1300s, from 1500s to 1300s. They controlled all that land. So they were not in control of any of that land. So the likelihood of the Exodus story happening is pretty much zero. There's zero likelihood of the Exodus story. They would have left Egypt for more Egypt. Okay, Sean, I don't think you're talking to me on that one. You're not talking to me. There's actually no proof of Joseph ever existing. They try to use this guy, Yusuf, who was a Semitic, who became very important in the court, but they try to attach him to Joseph, but it still doesn't. The time frame still doesn't work. Tim, take care of your dog. Take care of your dog. Good energy, man. Good energy. Oh, Sean, you was asking me. So do you think slash feel that the three major religions came from one religion, and if so, about what time frame did they split? So the major religions today that we talk about is the Christianity. The three major religions: Christianity, Islam, and Hinduism, or Indus religion. Indus religion ain't got shit to do with the Abrahamics. Around 600 CE is when you get the Muslims. Christianity started around 70 CE is when you get Christianity started. Yes, they both came from Judaism because they attached themselves to the Hebrew Bible. Now, Judaism came from the Canaanite religion of worshiping an El, which that really got started around 1100, 1000 BCE, and then got kicked full force around 800 BCE. The Canaanites came from the religion of the Sumerians and Akkadians, and that kicked in around 2100 BCE, right before the Gutium Empire is when they started. Now the Akkadians picked up from the Sumerians, and the Sumerians, that was when the Sumerian Akkadians got together. That was around 3000 BCE, and the Sumerians, the earliest known identification of them goes back to about 5000 BCE. I would say it's a combination of animism and astrotheology. You would have both of them pretty much materialize at the same time. Uh, just nature watchers, looking at the land and looking at the land, the sea, and the sky. Why are there so? That is a very good question. Why are there so many wars in the world? Greed, greed. But it's not the greed of the majority of people on the planet. It is the greed of the few, and that few maintains control over people through politics, religion, and economics. And because of their greed, we get war. But the overwhelming majority of the people would live in peace. Overwhelming majority would live in peace. Moses was living in the time frame of the Ramesses area. Not if you go by Bible chronology, it would have to be in around the 13th to 14th hundreds BCE. Ramsey doesn't come around until what 12, late 13, early 12. So, but see, that's the thing. They try to put him in the time frame of Ramsey because they said that they had built Pi Ramsey, but it just doesn't fit. But if you look at when Solomon said in his fourth reign, which was like 400 some odd years since what the whole Exodus stuff, that puts it around 1400, 1300 BCE. That's what I'm saying. This book is not historical at all. And then there's nothing about him during that time frame. They don't write anything about Moses. None of those. If that was happening during Ramses, the economy would have collapsed. You'd have writings about it. There's nothing. Thank you for gifting a membership. I appreciate that. Islam started with Adam, first man. The time frame of Adam would have been 4,600 BCE, around that time frame. Yet, the Sumerians were around before then. The Kush people were around before then. We've had people in the Americas before then. There were people in modern day China and India before then. The Aboriginals that was spoken of earlier were around before them. There are so many people groups around the world that was here before Adam ever was conceived of as an idea. Always a pleasure, Eric. Then, Pam, I would say you have not read the Bible if you don't find anything wrong with the Bible. At least, as someone said earlier, you have not read the Bible without your emotions attached. And then I will add to that that you have not read it without a predetermined outcome. Because if you was here earlier, you would realize that the Bible is historically inaccurate. Right. The Sphinx is older than Adam of Islam, Judaism, or Christianity. The Sphinx is older. And somebody built it. What is your opinion on most Africans doing some madness in the name of worshiping the European god, even though they have Ethiopia with the old religious stuff? Well, I think that Africans are pretty much a lot of the Africans who were colonized by European countries were forced into Christianity, just like many other nations were forced into Christianity, and it's become their norm because once you get the first crop, the first generation, believing in it. They teach their children, and they will continue. And now they've mixed in a lot of their ancestral religion, but at the same time, they know how to grift people, and they're conning, and they just like everywhere, they're conning people just like everybody else is conning people. We do see more of the outlandish stuff on social media. As far as them attaching themselves to the Ethiopian religion, that's no better. The Ethiopian version of Christianity is no better than any other version of Christianity. It is blatant lies on Ethiopia's part. I find it amazing that Ethiopians know good and damn well that there was no Christianity in Ethiopia. No, let me rephrase. No notable Christianity in Ethiopia until 330 CE. Prior to that, no Judaism, no Christianity of a significant amount to claim that they were doing this thing before anybody else. Ethiopian Christianity is a mixture of Orthodox and Gnostic Christianity, and with a little added black. And then Haile Selassie made up some shit as well to claim part of the Solomonic dynasty. That is not going to benefit Africans any more so than the European version of Christianity. Remember, these are the same people that stood in front of men with guns to protect the Ark of the Covenant, and they got mowed down, 80 of them massacred. And this was only a few years back. Now, this Ark of the Covenant is so powerful, why didn't the priests bring it out and do some Jericho level shit with it? Instead, they just let those people die. I doubt it, but I have no idea. I've never seen any connection between the Hyksos and the Vikings. That's a new one for me. I've never even had that question asked before. I don't even know how that would connect. I don't know. Don't take the way I talk as I wasn't mad. I wasn't trying to be. If you took that as me being like smart ass or something, please don't take it that way. Towards you, I just get when it's this thing like, how do people not, when it's information, can you understand what I'm saying, my man? Here, it's like we're in a time frame where information is so readily available, you know. So how do these people in Ethiopia just buy into it? You know what I'm saying? Like where's the thought process? 80 people get massacred for a belief, and you're supposed to have this Ark of the Covenant. You know what I mean? Can you make that make sense for me? How awful is this priest that he doesn't bring that damn thing out and Jericho their ass? You know what I'm saying? And then when you can look at the history and you know that it wasn't until Frumentius came to Ethiopia and converted King Lazana into Christianity that there was no Christianity in Ethiopia. So when the Bible talks about that, the eunuch, that old dude ran up on, there's none of that in Ethiopia. No proof. None. King Menelik the first, the second. Ethiopian history has nothing, no King Meneliks that flew over on a magic carpet with the mind. You know, so don't take it personally. It's just like, how can it blows me away. It just blows me away. So don't take that personally towards you, Shabazz. I know. Speaking of, where's the land of Nod? And now, you know, I think is it in the secret writings of Adam or the Apocrypha of Adam, something of Adam, where it talks about how Cain, that it was his sister that he married, and built this city. And why would you build a city? It's supposed to be like, I don't know, what, 10, 15, 20 people around? You building a city? That's not a city. It's barely a village. Okay, okay. I'm just making sure we cool. We cool. We good. We good. We good. We good. All right. Ethiopian Christianity was brought to them by Coptic Christians out of Egypt, out of Alexandria. The very ones. And the thing about it, I think, I don't know, was Frumentius a follower of Arius or was he a follower of Athanasius? I'm thinking he was a follower of Athanasius, but he brought them all the little writings that they had. He brought them books of Enoch and all these other books that Athanasius wasn't saying should be part of the canon, but they wound up taking them anyway. They developed their own canon. Plus, Athanasius was only on this national prominence, this international prominence for about 5 years when this happened. So it wasn't like he was big dog. And you know, the Council of Nicaea treated him like a scribe anyway. Haile Selassie used religion to galvanize his people and make himself Jesus for his people, to have that more control over his country, you know, which then become the Rastafarians. Yeah, Haile Selassie was a good politician. That's it. A good controlling politician. Now, would I run down in Jamaica screaming that from the tops of my lungs? Hell no. I may not make it out. Pretty sure I'd catch a machete or something. You got to know when you can scream stuff, and you got to know when to shut the hell up. And that is a shut the hell up moment. Prove it. Prove it. Just because your books say that he created Adam, that don't mean a damn thing. But archaeology says that there was people around long before your Adam was around. Oh, that's about the time. That's when I started asking questions when I was 9 years old. So I don't know how old you are now. I'm 53. If I had the internet, I probably would have deconstructed a lot sooner. Now, the only thing I do like about Rastafarians is that they push the idea of love and unity. They definitely push that. And the only reason I know that much about it because ever since I was probably about 6, 7 years old, I've been a fan of Bob. I was a fan of Bob. My mother was a fan of Bob. So I became a fan of Bob when I was probably about 5, 6 years old, probably before then. But my earliest memory of Bob, I was about 5 or 6. God damn it, Sean. God damn, Sean. Can't take you and Tim nowhere. Okay. You came out about 5 months ago. I came out of Christianity about, well, it hadn't been, I was 30, what, about 36 when I finally just said, oh, well, to hell with this. So, uh, can't be that short a time. It has been longer than that. I started asking questions when I was 9, trying to make it work, trying to make it work. In my 20s, well, no, in my mid 20s, I was definitely on some Gnostic Christianity. So I truly can say when I was more on Gnostic Christianity in my mid 20s, mid to late 20s. But I officially just was like, ugh, would have been about 36. So shit. Yeah, about 36. So yeah, 23 years. No, that's not 23 years. My math ain't mathing. Why I can't math right now? My math is not mathing. It still ain't mathing because I'm not even hitting this right in this calculator. So about 17 years. Couldn't get my math right. Well, welcome to not being caught up into that. Welcome to the freedom of being deconstructed from Christianity. And that is the reason why that is part of the reason why many of us deconstructed. Um, it just doesn't fit. What church she go to, Evan? We all may need to see how she dancing. I'm just playing. I'm just playing. We got some twerking in the church. Oh, oh, them, got them. I ain't gonna lie. I was one of them dudes that even when I had walked away from Christianity, but I was still, I had friends, family, had made the agreement that I would still take the kids to church. I ain't gonna lie, I was sitting back there looking at some of them tight dresses and skirts and some of that jumping around. I was still in there like that. And of course, I was dissecting the message. No, that shit wrong. That shit wrong. No, that's some lies. That's a contradiction. She's a spiritual Baptist. You don't get no shaking like the Baptist boy. They be doing some the Baptists and the Pentecostals. They do some jumping, get some good bouncing going. Ah, all y'all going to hell. Just want to let y'all know, all y'all going to hell. All right, y'all see we about done. Proof of Adam. Are you ready? Okay. Every woman is XX and man is XY, and every male embryo gets Y from the father. How is that proof of Adam? That that just proves you understand biology of the difference between male and female. That's all that proves. Biology of male and female is XXXY, and that the male is the one that determines male sperm, is it going to be a Y sperm or X sperm? That's all that you've demonstrated how biology works. That doesn't prove Adam. That doesn't prove Allah. Where what the hell, man? You're literally wasting my time with that bullshit. Literally wasting my time with that one. I hope you. I don't know. I think you're talking to me. What's my favorite contradiction? Oh, there's so many. There's so many. Like the video I did today, they Christians teach you that you don't have to follow the law, but Jesus said to follow the damn law. Um, Huge contradiction, especially that between and considering the Paulinian Christianity, where Paul is saying that is through beliefs. Um, Shit, why am I drawing blanks right now? I don't know. I'm gonna save that for a video because I'm gonna think about that because there's like so many things running through my head when you ask that question. Yep, it just doesn't add up. A lot of things is just making up stuff. One of my favorite contradictions was back in the day when in the New Testament said that you will name him Emmanuel, but then they called him Jesus, Yeshua. It's like when you're supposed to name him Emmanuel. Another one of those contradictions is that Jesus comes from the line of David, but yet Joseph has absolutely nothing to do with his creation. Um, the fact that they claim that the Luke version is Mary's lineage is a lie. That is actually, it literally says Joseph lineage, and then there's the contradictions between who Joseph daddy is. According to Mark, there's one dude. According to Luke, there's another dude who is his direct father. And then a lot of the other people within the lineage are not there or have different names. Oh, I appreciate that. Thank you. Not every woman is XY. No woman is XY. Men are XY. Women are XX. You said that earlier, that women are XX. So, oh, wait a minute. You're saying that no woman is XY. All women are. Did he say? Hold on, Evan. Did I get it wrong? So he said, the proof of Adam, you are every woman is XX and every man is XY. Yeah. That's a good one, the incestuousness of the religion. Now, of course, they always claim that incest was allowable up until you get to the Deuteronomy laws or Leviticus laws. You know what? Some of my biggest contradictions that the Exodus actually happened, that the flood actually happened, that any of this Joshua shit actually happened. Like it contradicts history. Yeah, but that just goes to show how apologists will make shit up just to make it fit. Yes, Adam is roughly goes back to about 6,000 years, a little over 6,000 years. It would date around 6,400. I mean, it would date around 4,600 BCE. And that's by going from Jesus to who begat who and who begat who and how old this person was when they begat this person, they begat and they begat, and you get to 4,600 and something BCE. Jonah and the whale, an impossibility. Um, Pantheogenesis is impossible in human beings. It is an impossibility. The most complex animal that pantheogenesis can happen in is lizards, reptiles. It's impossible for that to happen in humans or any other mammal. Y'all are typing fast. Well, the Tower, yeah, the whole Tower of Babel is some bullshit as well. That they built it within a few generations and had this huge city and everybody spoke the same language when there were languages that were around during that time frame. All right, it's been past my 2 hours. My cigar is out. So to recap, we read through Joshua 17 and 18 tonight. And in Joshua 17 and 18, it's expressed about the separation of these lands in the Levant, modern day Israel, of how it was separated through these people. This supposedly happened in the time frame of so, historically, it would have happened in around 1200 BCE to early 1300 BCE. Biblical historicity, it would have happened in around late 1300 or early 1400 BCE. But what we do know is that none of these separations could have happened because in both of those time frames, this land was controlled by Egypt. The entire time frame that the Moses and the Joshua story is supposedly happening, Egypt controlled this land. At no time did they take it. But because of the confusion that was going around during the Bronze Age collapse in the 1100s BCE, once they established themselves in around 800 BCE, they started making these stupid claims. But one of the other things that we saw in the reading of this story is that slavery was perfectly fine to enslave the people, the Canaanite people, that was in the areas that they claimed that they was going to conquer. So this God is okay with slavery. That women still were treated differently because even in their inheritance, if they were to marry someone outside of the Israelites, they would lose their inheritance. So they were still sexism that was going on in this time frame. So in knowing all of that, we know that the Joshua story is not true because the Joshua story was not ever heard of and possibly could have been had started being written in or around 800 BCE, which would put it multiple centuries too late to be considered truthful. The earliest piece of it is in around 300 CE, and the most completed version, I believe, is around 1300 BCE. I mean CE. Sorry, CE. So what we know is that this story is just a fabricated story of people in order to make a claim, and that this claim that they made has had tremendous issues of creating war between people in that region, by which we are seeing that happening today, because it is this division of the land based on Joshua that the Zionists in Israel right now are claiming that they have the right to displace all the Palestinians and even kill them, because they were told they can kill them or make them into slaves. This is why we deconstruct from this book. This is why the world needs to deconstruct from this book, because all it does is create strife. I think Ellen or Pam had said something about war. Why is there war? It's because of books like this, and the people who are in charge and have greed for resources and greed for control. They utilize this book to take people, steal people's minds, put them in fear, and then decimate societies. So when I first thought about this part of this book, I was like, okay, that's a boring part. But in actuality, it is very impactful as far as how we view the world today and why the world is so jacked up with some of its thought processes. So I hope you guys had just as much fun as I did. And of course, the second hour, we talked about everything under the sun. And our next live will be Monday. So our lives are Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Look forward to everybody being there. Thank you all for being members. Thank you, Trifold, for donating a membership tonight. That is always appreciated. Yes, and as Trifold, see, always on time. Hit that like button, hit that like button, hit that like button. If you don't subscribe to the page, subscribe anyway. And share the page, share all the videos. And for those who are members, thank you for your contributions to the channel. Those who are subscription holders, thank you for your financial contributions to the channel. Those who donate this way, thank you for your financial contributions to the channel. I look forward to our next live, which, like I said, will be on Monday. I don't know what we're going to talk about yet. So y'all have a great day, and always remember, you have to free yourself to be yourself, because your greatness is non-negotiable. Good journey, good vibrations. And it is still about 80-some degrees outside.